This kind of stuff right here is exactly why we can't seem to find any kind of resolution in our disputes with each other in this country, because people go out of their way to do things that are sticking it to people, and then we have people who get online like this and start going, yeah, this is what we should be doing. Brr. I grew up in a time where we were taught 2 wrongs don't make a right, and the idea of an eye for an eye is not the kind of people that we want to be. Yeah, 9/11 happened, and we had to go out and do something about it, and revenge was a big part of that, but I don't know. For me, it was more about just making sure that it didn't happen again in the future. When you look at the gerrymandering that's happening in Texas, you know, it's hard to not say things against things like this without people assuming that I'm some kind of a liberal. To be perfectly honest with you, I can't stand woke ideology. I can't stand a lot of liberal mindsets, but I'm also not a conservative either. There are a lot of conservative things that happen that really piss me off, and I don't have the patience for it. My issue here is that nobody ever remembers that this stuff gets turned back against you. What happens when you do things like this, when you go out of your way to silence people by manipulating the system to your advantage, is that people become disenfranchised with the system in general, and then you end up getting screwed over later. You get a little bit of something out of what you're doing now, but then you end up paying for it later. As somebody who lives in California and does not agree with the hyper-liberal government that we have here, and understands that the way that things have been drawn and partitioned and managed and all of that stuff here makes it so that I have zero voice here. When you see things like that happening in Texas, you start to understand that this is just not, this right here is exactly why. This is why our country has the problems that it has. It's because nobody sits down and says, you know what, the other side might be doing crappy things, but we're not going to sink to their level and do the same thing ourselves. We're going to rise above it, and we're going to enforce things to happen the right way. We have the power now, and rather than, just saying, you know what, they did it to us, so now we're going to do it to them, rather than doing that and actually sitting there and saying, hey, why don't we just use the power that we have now to set up rules that make it so that everybody has to play fair? Like, why don't we do that? Why don't we, instead of using our power to get back at the other side because they did this or they did that, how about we actually have a moral center and say, maybe we should, district things in a way that makes it so that the population that we have here is actually represented in the proportions that they're here. How about that? Right? Like, I'm telling you, I live in California. I am not a liberal, and it's kind of a hopeless feeling when you know that you have no like, my vote does not count here in the slightest. Anything that I would vote for, it's a waste of my time to go and vote. I have no sympathy for the Democratic Party in Texas. That's not the point here. The point here is that there's right and there's wrong, and what they're doing in Texas is wrong. The way it should work is the state is divided up in a way that makes sure that there is a certain number of representatives for each X number of people, which means that if 20% of the population is Democrat in Texas and 80% is Republican, then 80% of the representatives in Texas should be Republican and 20% should be Democrat. That's the right way. You cannot be... You can't make any kind of moral claims if when you're in power, you're doing the same kind of shady crap that the other side was doing. Everybody wants to talk about fight fire with fire, fight fire with fire. You don't fight fire with fire. You fight the enemy with righteousness and justice and the right way. You set the example for how things are supposed to be. That's what you do. You do it with enough strength that it works. The reason why they have to fight fire with fire is because our government is filled with so many fucking pussies that they don't have the strength to actually do things the right way and for it to actually work. I'm sorry. I can't listen to things like this and take any of these kinds of people seriously. Right? There is a way to do things and enforce things with a sense of justice and morality and something that can be respected by the people. Something that can mend fences rather than just taking it out on people because they were crappy people, right? We saw what happened in South Africa when Nelson Mandela came out of prison and said, you know what, we're not gonna rage against the people who did all of these things to us. We're gonna try to fix the problem. We're gonna try to set things up and make sure that things go the way that they're supposed to do. And yeah, 20 years later, or 30 years later, or whatever it was, South Africa has gone to crap anyway because not enough people joined in with that vision. But while he was doing it, South Africa was an amazing place. America worked because we worked with each other. We didn't fight each other. We didn't turn everything into a partisan ultimatum. You cannot go around doing things that you know are wrong and justifying it as, well, our side needs to win. It makes the other side hate you. It makes anybody who's not on your side have zero respect for you. You know why I hate I tend to lean very conservative on a lot of issues, but I can't stand the Republican Party because they do all the same stuff that the Democrats do. You do all the same stuff. And you're proud of it somehow. I don't understand that. You're proud of it somehow. They do all of these things to you, and your response is, well, you know what? They did it to us, so we'll do it to them. That's not moral. There's no morality in any of that. You're acting like a child just like they did. And I'm supposed to have even a tiny ounce of respect for you because what, you happen to be in power right now? When you're a child, you look at adults and you think that once you become an adult, you think that they're so much more mature than you are, right? You're in your teens and you're looking at 30 and 40-year-olds and you're like, man, they're so mature and they're so this and no. They all act like teenagers. Like people my age, so many people my age act like teenagers. There's no thought process. There's no reflection. There's no anything. There's, I want what I want and F everybody else because I want what I want. And it applies to the political parties too. They want what they want and they don't care what they have to do to get what they want. They're going to do it anyway. There is not one single justification that the Republican Party in Texas can bring that makes redistricting the state to give them more seats make any kind of sense. If they are doing it so that they can get more seats and not to make sure that the state is being represented in the proportions of the population that actually lives there, if they're going beyond that, there is no justification for it. And anybody who says anything different is a fucking liar. If you say to me that there's any justification for giving them more seats than they deserve based off the population that they have, you are a fucking liar. You are immoral, and I have zero respect for you. I don't understand how we can live. I don't understand how you can have grown adults who are supposed to know better, and they just don't care. And then you get people like this who get on, and they just cheer for this stuff. And I'm like, are you out of your mind? There is no way that you can ever morally justify this. This is not justice. This is revenge. And revenge is not what America is supposed to be about. There's a reason why our justice system works the way it works. It's because we understand that revenge is almost never just. If you think that what's going on in Texas makes sense, I invite you to stop, to go back, to do some self-reflection, to think about the way that things are supposed to be. Because you think it's great now when it's working in your favor. But later on, 20, 30 years from now, when they turn right back around and do it to you, you're gonna rue the day that you did stupid shit like this. We never learn from our mistakes. I invite you to start trying to do it now, because it's not gonna go your way. There are certain things that just, like, I do my best when I get on camera to be calm and collected, but I believe in what America is, right? Not what our politicians are trying to turn it into. What America is. America is a land where we can all come together to try to make the best lives we can for ourselves and for each other and for our families and for our communities. America is still a beacon of light for the world because the people who live here, not our government, the people who live here believe in something. And when our politicians go against the things that we believe in, it should make you angry. It shouldn't just be something where you're like, whatever, politics, what can you do? It should make you mad. It should make you angry. If you live in Texas and this is happening and you are a conservative, you should be calling your representatives and asking them, what the fuck are you doing? If you want to live in a society that is free, you cannot play stupid games like this, and you cannot let your leadership play stupid games like this. You should accept that a certain percentage of your population believes one thing, and they should have representation. The representation that they have as the proportion of the population that they are. And you don't screw with that. That should have a sanctity to it. It should not be something that gets screwed with because people want to play fuck games. I entreat you, everyone who lives in Texas, shame your politicians for doing what they're doing. If the redistricting does not result in a proportional amount of representatives for each of the groups you have in your state, that is a failure. And you should be angry that it's happening. Even if it's not for your benefit. You should believe that there's right and there's wrong, and they're doing wrong. Set aside what you want and just think about what's right. And you know what I'm saying is correct. We do not want to live in a country where everything gets manipulated in the way that it does. And the longer we continue to let it happen, the worse it's going to get. It's easier to fix it now than 20 years from now when there's nothing you can do about it. Call them. Stop them. Shame them into doing the right thing. Because this is ridiculous.